Unless you're using Netflix to watch Cyberpunk, Edgerunners, Beastars, or Comey Can't Communicate, there's a good chance that you're just like me. But if you just so happen to be perusing through the anime list on Netflix, you'll notice that they have a new original. And if you came across this grand anime, it's called Romantic Killer. Now this anime is very new, with it being released on October 27th, having a late start into the fall anime selection of 2022. And granted, with this year being very heavy with hyped releases such as Chainsaw Man, the second season of Spy Family, Mob Psycho 100, and many others that are out or are soon to follow for the winter selection, it's not an understatement to say that Romantic Killer is the equivalent to that middle child of the family. The middle child who also wanted to look nice for their performance and, well, ended up being forgotten at the hair salon. This definitely is not something that happened to me. I just wanted to be a handsome boy. Well, anywho, the reason I'm bringing up this anime that randomly spawned out of thin air is because it is cringy, it's audaciously cheeky, and it's good. It's really, really good. And here's why. Hoshino Anzu is not quite your average schoolgirl. In fact, I'd classify her as every otaku and nerd's dream girl. She loves staying indoors playing video games while relaxing, gluttons on chocolates and sweets, and even has a pet cat that she absolutely adores. Not to mention her entire wardrobe is just cat-related clothing. She is, through and through, a total geek. Her games, chocolates, and her cat is what she all calls her three needs. But this isn't where the anime starts. Oh no. So, it all starts with this fucking potato. Yeah. Wow. I almost turned off the TV right then and there. This cringy, magical potato wizard crawls out of the fucking TV like the ghost from The Ring and starts to take over the place. When I was scrolling through Netflix and saw the show, I had no idea what I was getting into, but I certainly wasn't expecting this. Basically, this magical potato dude is here because, well, she's getting no dick. This potato dude's whole job is to try and kickstart Anzu's romantic life and find a boyfriend for her. But the thing is, this is set up in the style of an otome game, which means that it would be targeted for women. Technically, this is a reverse harem anime full of the dudes classified under the term ikemen, who are just handsome studs. But don't let that turn you away from it. The thing about this anime is that the characters are completely relatable. The humor is great, and the story is honestly well done. Like I said earlier, when I first started watching the show, I was almost turned off. But over halfway through the first episode, I noticed that whatever I was thinking, Anzu was saying the same thing. For example, when she started up a romance game, the 3D animation for the game was god-awful, simply put. But that's the entire point. It's making fun of the genre in a way that appeals to all, saying that it's corny, it's sappy, and above all, it's cringy. But the anime recognizes this and implements it anyways, immediately becoming a parody of the genre. But anyhow, back on track with the story, in order for Anzu to get her romantic life back on track, Riri, or the magic potato wizard looking dude, takes away her three basic needs, aka her games, her chocolate, and of course, taking her cat hostage. Not to mention, her parents suddenly move overseas to America and leaves the poor kid behind. Everything happens so fast that Anzu makes a vow not to fall in love with anyone. And that's when her main love interest enters the scene. What an expensive entrance. So, Anzu accidentally breaks Kazuki's Tsukasa's phone, and he's oddly cool with it? Whatever. I'm sure there's not much meaning behind that one. Ain't that right, foreshadowing? Well, one thing leads to another with Anzu desperately trying to avoid him at all costs. And how does this turn out? With them living together, of course? All thanks to a storm that causes them to hunker down in Anzu's house, and the storm absolutely trashes Kazuki's apartment. All thanks to our magical potato friend. Eventually, more ikemen or handsome studs enter the scene and try to steal Anzu's heart, while Anzu is getting fed up with Riri, our down bad potato wizard, trying to get her some ikemen dick. Talk about stressful. Also, Riri can totally turn into a human, both male and female, so that's pretty cool. And personally, I prefer the female form. While the comedy of the show is absolutely hilarious, and I truly do mean it when I say that, I found myself laughing at unexpected outcomes and clever jokes, not to mention Anzu's absurdly drawn faces and the constant twists and surprises that come along with it. But despite that, there are hints of serious elements spread all throughout the anime. It's like a light coating here and there, and your stomach can't help but drop with every hint. And it all comes down to the main male lead, Kazuki. Throughout the entire show, we notice that he doesn't like women at all. As a matter of fact, it's almost as if he's repulsed or anxious. At first, we think of this as, geez, he's just a sexist narcissist, right? He knows he's handsome and he won't fall for just anyone, right? That whole ploy? Well, the truth is, no, that's not the reason at all. In fact, that reason is a little bit more sinister. Kazuki suffers from severe public and social anxiety. It's mainly particular to women. He's well aware that he gets asked out a lot for being classified as an ikemen, but this ultimately is what he despises, even to the point where he even despises and criticizes himself. And while as a child, he was a really good kid, growing up happy and even had a variety of friends. But this doesn't seem to be how Kazuki is currently at all. Why is that? Well, it all started with a bag. We rewind into the past, where Kazuki is currently a middle schooler. He's walking home one day with his friends, and that's when she enters, an older woman in her early 20s who tripped and fell in front of him, dropping her bag, and doing what any other ordinary human being with a soul would do. He picked up her bag and handed it to her, and asked if she was hurt. And just like that, the snowball started rolling downhill. Just like that, a stalker was made. Despite the disturbing twist, it all made sense since the beginning. Anzu falls at the beginning of episode 1, right in front of Kazuki, but he hesitates to even help her. To us, it was nothing but judgment towards him. But really, we don't think anything of it. But through the eyes of Kazuki, it could have been something much worse. With Kazuki gaining a stalker, his mental health plummets. And with this stalker's obsession, she makes fake accounts under his and his family's names, and slowly starts to destroy his social life, turns his friends against him, and even his family. And despite this crescendo of disaster coming forth, one particular disturbing event takes place.
司くん、テレーゼンだもんね。やっぱり周りの目気になっちゃうよね。毎日会ってくれるから言葉は交わせなくても我慢できるけど、私だけの司くん、他の人たち邪魔だね。
This made me sick. Despite Kazuki being a victim, his father sees differently and starts to blame him for ruining their lives, and even having a stalker in the first place, only adding on to the abuse. With his entire school turned against him, his father's abuse, his stalker's appearances, and his rising anxiety, he eventually moved cities with the help of his loving sister and mother. And that's why he lives alone, and it's why he doesn't trust women who want him. And to make matters worse, after all the effort of moving, hiding away, and barely showing himself in public, she found him again. And how did she find him? Well, it was through a random picture on social media of Kazuki and Anzu standing in the background of another couple's picture. And the odds are certainly against it. The stalker eventually finds Anzu and tries to convince her that Kazuki is her boyfriend and moved away from her. And by the time Anzu realizes that something about this person is just not right, it was too late, with Kazuki walking out of the house right into the trap. Luckily, Anzu steps in and protects Kazuki, but of course it's only for a while. Kazuki breaks down and tells Anzu everything about the stalker, his anxiety, his father's abuse, everything. Anzu, of course, accepts Kazuki and his problems right up front, understanding and reassuring that it's not his fault for what's happened to him, and that they can get through this. And Anzu is plenty aware of how cruel people can be, all because her best friend Saki went through something similar. Saki was popular a few years back in high school all because of her looks, but similarly to Kazuki, she despised herself. She wanted to look normal instead of people sexualizing her just because of the way she looks. Even though her friends wished that they could have her assets, Saki wanted theirs. But even if she said anything, it would only make others mad and it wouldn't help her. With Saki also being treated wrongly by another jealous classmate, Anzu noticed and stepped up to be her friend. Though, her real nightmare began when she started dating an older classmate. He reassured her that he would never lay a hand on her unless she was ready, and he kept his word. But one day, he invited her over to study at his place.
先輩
どうして？ああ、さきちゃんまだ子供だから知らないのかな。男の家に来るってことは、そういうの OK ってことなんだよ。
Absolutely disgusting. The next day after that incident, he spread despicable rumors about her and the school was all over it. All except Anzu, who trusted Saki and dismissed all the rumors. Anzu is a very compassionate character, and every character in this show goes through some sort of character development. Even Riri, who also starts to become more human and breaks her contract's rules in order to help Anzu and keep her safe, especially to protect her and Kazuki for good. Kazuki's stalker ends up going after Anzu and almost succeeds in killing her, but ultimately fails thanks to Kazuki standing up for both Anzu and himself. His stalker ends up going to prison while Anzu is escorted to the hospital. After getting treated for her wounds, Kazuki's father enters and forces Kazuki to bow and apologize, and almost forces Kazuki to leave and go back home with him. Anzu then grabs Kazuki and absolutely roasts the living hell out of his father, and promptly leaves with Kazuki. Meanwhile, Riri decides to take matters into her own hands.
それはこっちのセリフですよ
And she gave Kazuki's stalker amnesia, forever forgetting any trace of Kazuki. With that, Riri broke the rules and was fired and put into a dungeon for slave work in her world. But Anzu pulled a fast one and altered the rules to her liking, saying that Riri is a love interest to her and absolutely has a chance of ending up together. And just like that, Riri was able to stay. Now, this anime actually covered all of the source material as the manga was left on a cliffhanger of all things, but it is also very possible that Netflix will go for an original adaptation and create their own story from here for a season 2. But it's only a possibility. And as for this anime, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The characters were relatable, the animation is well done, and the comedy is top tier. Not to mention it has a good overall message. Don't get so sucked up into meaningless pastimes. Eventually your time here will be up. Have experiences, make friends, face your fears, and above all, have fun. After all, life is too short to be taken seriously, right? Alrighty, and that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you all so much for sticking around and listening in. What do you guys think about Romantic Killer? Are you guys thinking of watching it? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments down below for Romantic Killer, and if you've seen it already, or if you are going to. Also, don't forget to like, share, and definitely don't forget to subscribe, as it's always more fun to have new people join the community. And as for now, I'll catch you later. See you in the next one.
大丈夫だよ